All right, sit back, relax. It's time for another Laneway Talks.
G'day, Rob, and welcome to another episode of Laneway Talks. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. G'day, Vince. Thanks for having me today.
Well, today we are going to talk about you, Rob, but prior to getting to that, I'll just go through something that's come up, music business, and which is quite important to artists is that, and I think a lot of AI has a lot to do with this, but Spotify and the other DSPs or digital service providers have started taking down people's or artists' music because there seems to be some confusion in streaming rights. And so what they're saying, here's one example, is an artist who's earned more than $500,000 in streaming royalties has been unwittingly caught up in streaming services' new crackdown on fraud. His distributor, TuneCore, had received a notice from Spotify indicating that the significant artificial streaming activity had been detected on his music. So what do we detect as that? Is that are they saying that he didn't write the whole thing? Is it, therefore there's some AI in there or whatever? His distributor said, had been detected. TuneCore summarily removed all 23 of his albums from all streaming platforms without warning. Streaming fraud is one of the most serious problems facing the music industry at the moment because most streaming platforms operate on a pro rata payment, in which payment is based on an artist's share of total streams. Fraudsters have managed to steer millions of dollars away from legitimate artists. This is going to be I got to read up on all of this and see, but we know that fraud has been happening, and there was some notification of this weeks ago that I suppose you could say Eastern countries, that's where a lot of it emanates from, were stealing songs and putting it up as their own until they get caught. But until they got caught, they've earned a lot of money.
TuneCore is owned by Believe.
But, they're no different to a half a dozen of the others. So they're just doing as they're told in a sense. But what a lot of this comes back to also is this AI involvement in music, and that I've mentioned on the show before that we've had issues with Google and Meta. Firstly, it was in relation to copyright. And so AI would flag you as copyright infringement when we own the material. So that's completely wrong. And that took forever to sort out. It took out months, and you couldn't even market with them. As much as I hate giving them money, but we do need them to market. And they're obviously losing money because we weren't marketing with them. Then that got resolved, and now we're having a whole heap of issues with AI going through videos and detecting things in them and yada, yada, yada. And I had one this morning where an artist sent me his new video, and the new video had, it didn't have a breast showing, but it was kind of like an alien with a breast, and then it was two aliens kissing and touching, and I said, that's all got to come out. That'll be flagged by AI straight away. He goes,
is that right?
Are you kidding? I said, look, I don't make the rules, but we have to follow the rules to actually get past and make you money. I said, just re-edit the video, take those bits out. And that's like, I remember I told you weeks ago that we had one where they were dealing tarot cards and it got picked up as gambling because they were dealing cards. That just, that's what's happening at the moment. So when you get this kind of fraud happening with audio, it doesn't surprise us at all. We know it's going on, and you've got to stay diligent with it all.
Censorship is taking on a whole new way of approach, really.
Well, it's the woke world we live in, and when you call it censorship, I call it woke. So I can't have a girl with a G-string bikini on, so I can go down to the beach and I can see a girl with a bikini and a G-string on. And do you find that offensive or don't you? But it's all legal. And then if it's on a video, your video will get pinged.
So it's legal to do in real life, but it's illegal to do as a video.
Well, they're saying because, young kids can see. Well, I thought young kids could be down the beach. I didn't look, this kind of whole woke thing going on is insane. I mean, we could probably discuss that in another episode and go through it, Rob. But anyway, that is kind of happening at the moment. That is going to be an issue in the coming months because you're going to have a lot of artists whose music's been taken down. So, can those distributors control that? Can they get them back up quickly enough? Can they go back to say, no, it's owned by this artist and we represent that artist? A lot of questions to be answered there. That's kind of the big news at the moment. Of course, there's the festivals. 1/3 of festivals are no longer profitable. And that's no surprise with a recession going on and with cost of living going through the roof. No real support coming from either side of politics. We don't want to mention either side because I don't think any of them make any difference. So therefore, it doesn't surprise me that festivals are not as profitable, but the cycle will go round in a 360 circle and they will become profitable again. And that will all happen. So, that's, one of the things going on out there.
That's what we were just talking about. I got the message, email, whatever, from Kathy Anderson, senior editor from LinkedIn. We were talking about this off air before, but she leaves me with the question, how can it be more financially stable in order to provide a platform for artists and bolster tourism? You got any thoughts on that question from Kathy Anderson?
Well, yeah, I do. How? What kind of questions that? If they're struggling because of, number one, recession,
yes.
that incorporates cost of living, that incorporates inflation, that incorporates the fictitious employment figures. What do I mean by fictitious employment figures? We have full employment and they went down from 3.9 to 3.6. What's considered full employment is really 4.3 or something around that figure. A lot of those new jobs created are part-time jobs. Examples, and nobody drills down, and the government definitely doesn't drill down. Again, doesn't matter if it's Labor or Liberal. They don't drill down. So if a job is worth 6 hours, I'll give you a real clear example of the Hells Angels running the state of Victoria. The Daniel Andrews government, when they came into power, got a huge donation from some of the cleaning companies, from big companies. And then what happened was they were in cahoots all with the unions. You wouldn't believe it, would you? In cahoots with the unions because the unions donated. This was whatever union represented cleaners, and they donated to the Labor government, re-election. So they put a law in here so individual cleaners, and I know this from some of our artists, individual cleaning companies, private companies like you or me, had public schools. So you might have a string of 10 high schools or primary schools that you were cleaning and you had a contract with the headmaster and off you went. Yep. And so they changed it so that you couldn't do that anymore. Now, if you had a contract for 3 years, for example, the government just said, we're ripping that up. So these guys went to their lawyers and whatever and to the opposition who couldn't help, no useless Liberals. It was just that your contract was ripped up and the job was given to the big corporates who then would come in and go, right, Rob, that's a 4-hour job we're paying you for. But in actual fact, prior to that, it was a 6-hour job, do that clean. They then go, no, it's 4 hours and you've got to get it done in 4 hours. So either the job doesn't get done or you do it in 6, but you only get paid for 4. So what we've got is that kind of employment going on. We know that a lot of the figures are made up of part-time employment. So that people are, considered employed, but they're part-time employment. And so all of this comes into this cost of living and, what's going on out there. And it's all shrouded by figures, which are not real. So we go to festivals and I think about young people and say, let's use the example 18 to 24s go there or 18 to 25s go there. They're either at uni, racking up a HEX debt or HEX debt, or they're at work and they're not going to be making a lot of money because they've either just come out of uni or they haven't been to uni, so, or they may be an apprentice. And you get all those cost of living factors coming in at the moment. I'm not sure a festival is going to be profitable or how people are going to pay the money. Let's talk $350 a ticket, then at least $350 in drinking and food and whatever over a weekend.
That's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it is. It's big money. Everybody's making their cut along the way. If you want to buy some merchandise, well, there's a T-shirt, $50. Therefore, if they're unprofitable at this time, maybe the government has to pitch in and help. We could look at all the wastage there in the state of Victoria, $1.8 billion given out, whether it was to, get rid of the tunnel or get rid of the roads and whatever. We could have built 4 or 5 hospitals, or we could have pumped $10 million into helping festivals in Victoria and whatever. But, I could go on for hours with that, but I just think there's a cost of living crisis, and why should festivals be exempt from that cost of living crunch? And who are the ones making the money? A lot of lower order bands won't ever get a gig there.
I know. Just in contrast, we just had the gather round here last weekend for the football.
It was fantastic, wasn't it?
And it was pretty much sold out every venue.
I know.
Now, we're talking sport versus arts.
Yeah.
That dichotomy is just, I think, showing everyone the distraction that everyone's heading towards, and music is suffering because people are they're being sold something with a bigger financier behind it, whereas the arts haven't got that financier. They're not being supported totally by the government like the sports are.
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree at all. Now, that gets down to money again, and we've got the AFL, which are made, which we know is questionable in its ethics. Let's look at the drugs issue that's come up in the last 4 weeks. And, they test themselves and things just get hidden. But the amount of money involved, money talks. With music, it becomes a lot more degraded in the people running it, in the sense that they're a lot smaller and therefore they don't wield the power. Once again, you've got to get some real substance behind willing to want to put on festivals or shows. One of the things I've championed for quite a few years now is that in Melbourne, we have a city square and there is a stage there. It's across the road from the Flinders Street station, Rob. There is a stage permanently built there, and if you try and do a show there, which I've tried, the council then handball you off to an independent private company, which when I asked what the costs were involved to run it there, it was highway robbery. So very few shows are put on there, because you can't run them because it's it's so corrupt. So I've championed, so I just finished there, and I've championed, why would you want people to come into the city? That's the big thing the Melbourne City Council have been championing. Well, why don't you put a show on there every Friday between 6:30 and 7:30 and put a band on every week? Do it. It wouldn't cost much, and it would bring people into the city. It would keep people in the city after work. It would be great for our creative culture, everything that goes with it. But do you think that can happen, Rob? No.
Yeah, it's funny because back in the 80s, Greta from Central Station, or Metal from Melbourne, they used to be on that platform across from Flinders Street.
Yeah. We used to have a lot more bands playing, quite frankly, back then in town. But anyway, and then you get the excuses. It's all about insurance, and OHS, and then we get back to, therefore, this whole woke kind of thing. It's got to be 100% safe or we can't do it. So therefore it doesn't get done.
The bureaucrats taking over the system, that is. It's just they're trying to find employment for overeducated bureaucrats to justify their existence. You can take that any way you want. But I think that's the problem that's systemic throughout society at the moment. It's definitely at the institution that I was at. All the academics basically don't have a say in what goes on. It's all the bureaucrats, and they're not on the same page.
No, I know. It's it is across society, and it's not just in one area. So it's happening everywhere, and there's a lot less accountability in anything. Anyway, we could talk about, but that's my kind of answer. There is for festivals is that they're on the nose and they're going to be for a while, and then they'll jump back in when things are more affordable. And we, essentially as a country, we need to get our inflation down. Inflation is a killer. And there is not one good thing about inflation. It will strike the lower end of society hard. And that's what's happening now. It's we've just got to battle inflation. You go to Coles and just, a piece of meat's $9, which would have been $3.50 4 years ago. Well, Rob, we're going to talk about you though. We're going to go back to all your websites and whatever, and what you're doing for a living. we kind of consider you one of the best drummers in the country, but you work hard at being one of the best drummers. And there's a lot of good drummers, Rob, but they don't have books out. They don't tutor every week and have that whole substance behind them. So if I go first to your website, which is Rob's Drum Shed, it's a journey through self-expression and shared experiences. Talk to me about Rob's Drum Shed. How long did it take you to set this up? What were the years involved in the experience required to even be able to set it up, in the sense that if there's no substance behind Rob Boundy, well, there wouldn't be any behind the website. So talk to me about that.
Okay, well, when I was teaching, I was thinking about this morning, how we'd approach this, but when I began teaching in schools and by private teaching, I had students come back every week and, have you done any practice? No. Some had, but a lot hadn't. And I say, why? I couldn't remember what I had to do. Well, it's written down in your diary, so is that not explainable? So I found a need there that if I put up a resource that students could go to and have their weekly lesson in front of them, all I had to do was log into the website and go, oh, that's what I did in my drum lesson this week. Click on it and there's a play along. There's a backing track. There's a PDF if they've lost their music or their dogs ate it or whatever. And I have that, and I've written a whole series of lessons. Foundations is the first syllabus that I wrote, and then there's the intermediate syllabus, and then there's the advanced. My book Foundation came after I'd done the website, because I did the hard copy of all the website work. But that process started in 2005 and probably took me up to 2015 to get it up and running and live. I worked with two IT guys and a sound engineer to initially put it up. I recorded most of the tracks in guest songs studios. I wrote all the music. I performed or programmed the backing tracks myself. I wrote the music myself for all that. So it's a culmination of all my work put up in a website, and you can see the people that I associate with. I've done clinics with. I've done, I would have to say, tens to hundreds of drum clinics over the years, and I've seen the way different professional drummers work. So I've taken little bits and pieces from all of their ideas and tried to put it into my version of what I think that is, that students would get a benefit out of. But yeah, building the website has been a big build. It's expensive to do, and it's very time-consuming. And so I would say it's about a 10-year process.
Can I ask you, you mentioned there that there was 3 levels, the beginners, medium, and I suppose advanced.
Foundations.
Right, yeah. And so 3 levels. Can you give me any percentage or stats on, if we talk about there's a pool of people, not kids, anybody, who want to learn drums, what are the percentages like that petter off then? So if we've got 100, the pool is 100%, what percentage is represented within those depths, I suppose? Introductory, medium, and then advanced. How many go through? So how many are represented in the beginners? So at uni, I think when I went to uni, in the first lecture, there was 380 people. By the end of that year, there was about 240. And by the end of the second year, there was about 190. By the end of the third year, it was down to about 58.
That's it.
Now, can you give me some percentages in there? Do people go through to advanced? How many survive?
Probably 5 to 10%.
So what we're talking about there, 5 to 10%, is when we get to, in advanced is being a drummer myself is a very difficult thing to get to. And so therefore, it's a very few that survive to get to that high end.
Yeah, you've got to consider, the whole 10,000 hours equation. A lot of people probably heard.
Yep.
I've broken that down because I have to know what does that mean. You got to do 10,000 hours of practice to be professional or proficient. Okay, essentially you've got to be practicing from half an hour to an hour a day, 5 to 6 days a week for pretty much 10 years to get 10,000 hours.
I would have done that easy when I was a kid.
Yeah, but there's a process of organisation that there's practice and there's jamming, and they're all relevant. But it's the gym, and you walk in there, and just as an example, a comparison for a lot of people go to gym and keep fit. But if you walk into a gym and you've got no guidance and no direction, no plan, you can spend your hour there just going from, I'll lift some weights, I might go on the rowing machine, I might do a few sprints and a bit of a jog, and then I'll go over and do some curls and lift some weights, and then I'll go home. By the end of the first 12 months, it's not a big difference. But if you've got a trainer or a teacher, someone that can put a program together for your specific needs physically, that 12 months is going to look a lot different than just you going to the gym, sorting yourself out. So it's the same thing, especially with drumming. It's a physical instrument. You need to have a physical approach to what you do to develop good technique and musicality. But musicality at a higher level doesn't come without a good understanding of music. You need to get it. A lot of people drop off because they don't get it.
Yeah.
Not a flaw in anyone. It's just some people don't relate to it. Some people make good dentists. Some people make good doctors. Some people make good trades.
Yeah.
No competition within that. But musician, and especially as a drummer, you need to be able to, one, get what music is about, to be able to hear it. But also you need the physicality to be able to do it. But your body needs to connect with your mind. And there's a series of processes that I've written over 40 years really through experience and talking with other professional drummers, which I do on a day-to-day basis. Anyway, so that is a very important part of why you get 10%, because by the time you get through to even the intermediate section, it's hard and it's a daily thing. People have busy lives, but you have to factor in practice every day.
You know, Rob, when I suppose, in my 20s, and a different world, no digital. So, we didn't have a lot of things to keep us occupied except TV and music. And I used to be so eager to, now I call it more jam to myself, because I wasn't taught sight reading. I did get taught sight reading. But I then, just wanted to be in a band. So that all went by and by. But so I would, just practice, which is, I think, what you would call just jamming. And I was so eager to do it, and you couldn't do it late at night, of course, because, there was no electronic drums. I had bought my Billy Hyde drum pad kit. Did you remember that?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. And that would be my nighttime kit to play on. So if I got home from work and it's too late, only the weekends could I actually play on the analog kit, and then during the week at night I would always just play for a good hour, even an hour and a half, and and you do anything to just play and play and play. It is a lot easier these days with an electronic kit because you get the sounds, so you can take it that little bit further. But I think with the distractions these days, that would bring that top bracket down a bit, because as you said, there is life, but life has so many distractions in it now compared to early, simpler life.
And there's more and more. I mean, with the advent of the downturn in the whole, what I would say, music economy in the 90s, what happened in the 90s? Videos, you get a little unit and you can go out and rent a video and stay home, and you don't have to go anywhere. So, but it takes up time. I saw a blog this morning, which was quite interesting, that my wife had sent me about Netflix, how dangerous that is, because you're kind of being trained into spending 34 hours a week, I think was the figure that he came up with, of watching television.
Well, I get it. I get it. I don't do it because I'm just so busy, but that's my call, to be busy and work in, on music. Who cares what it is? But okay, mine's music. So I rarely watch it, but I know my kids watch it a lot and everybody talks about it, but I just don't get the chance. So, but I do get it. That's a lot of hours per week. Isn't it? So, if we go there, we've got sample introduction, we've got Virgin Soldiers, which we talk about regularly and we'll be talking more about moving forward.
Back to the website, that's the
what's new,
So the sample introduction lesson is just basically the first part of my book, the Virgin Soldiers Musicland, so you can actually watch, so I can actually play drums.
Yeah.
That's right, what I think is reasonable music. The third one's Buy Drum Stuff Here, which links to the Derringers website, which we have over 90,000 products on. So,
yeah.
And I mean, back to that point that you were making about, all right, so who gets to the advanced 10%? What I find, I base everything on what I see in real life. or most of it, is that there's a lot of hobbyists out there.
Can we explore that? And I mean, that covers quite a wide area in that when you use the word hobbyist, because you work in a drum store also, and you
Correct.
must see it, because friends tell me here, Drummers Paradise and whatever, that the kid walks in with the mother. Now, the car out the front might be like a BMW X5. So we come in and the kid wants to play drums, so we're buying him a drum kit and money's no expense.
That's it.
Right.
There's lots of...
Yeah, so I would have thought, and that comes into the hobbyist thing, does it? And where...
That's the beginner, entry-level student still at school.
Yeah.
Which is probably, I would have to have a look at real figures, but I would guess at about 30% of the business.
All right.
Pro players probably represent about 10 to 20% of the business, which is talking to, the advanced. We take it back to the guys that we get to the advanced stage.
Yeah.
Then between those two figures, 20%, 30%, there's 50% of those people within that, in my opinion, are hobbyists. They play with their mates. They've got a cover band that they do gigs on the weekends, but most of them full time.
Yeah.
And they have an income that supports their habit and their love of playing music.
Mm.
And I get a lot of inquiries and guys that come along and go, yeah, I can play. And yes, they can, but they want to get to the next level. But there's a difference between wanting to and actually committing to a program to get to that level. I mean, Neil Peart from Rush went to Freddie Gruber after, I don't know how many albums they had done, 35 albums and God knows how many tours, and completely retrained himself. And when you listen to the Test for Echo album, you go, can I hear any difference? No, he still sounds the same as what he ever did. Absolutely brilliant, great technical command, but he completely changed his approach. When you look at him physically playing, he had changed it through Freddie's coaching, who's like a professional player. So that commitment was a 2-year commitment on Neil's behalf of 9 to 5, 5 days a week for 2 years to be able to change his approach. So his body lasted for another 10 or so years to be able to play.
Interesting. So his body was able to cope.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, can you just explain that a bit to someone like me?
Well, the nature of
amateur drummer like me.
Physicality to the machine, which you've got drums in certain places and cymbals in certain places, and there's only a certain amount of time you can pound plastic and metal and wood with there's absolutely no forgiveness in all of that. So you've got to be able to absorb it, have like shock absorber effect, especially with your feet, your knees, hip, back, elbows, shoulders, hands, wrists. All of those things need to be worked on, strengthened, and not pounded to death because they don't last. A lot of guys drop off because they get severe back pain. Just get carpal tunnel. A lot of guys get shoulder pain, neck pain, things like that. So, they're just hazards of pounding a drum kit for a long period of time. So Neil went back.
Peter Criss, I've seen a video of Peter Criss prior to each show, used to have to soak his bottom parts of his arms in warm water for 30 minutes to limber up the muscles just to be able to play.
Yeah, absolutely. There's just so many different routines that I've seen with a lot of drummers, like supporting and working with different levels of drummers to see that they go through those sorts of things. The one guy that is the most resilient and the most fit that I've seen first up a lot of times is Virgil Donati. He's the same, and he is improving. He does not lose any ground. He gets better and better, and he's in his 60s, and physically he is in top shape, but he looks after his diet. He's a physical fitness professional, and he has the brain, so there's those, and the commitment. It's not questionable at all with Virgil's commitment, lifelong commitment to it. And there's not a lot of guys that do that, but, Virgil would probably be at the top of the game. The other guy that I would say, there's a lot of them out there now because they follow the next generation after Virgil.
Yeah.
I would say Thomas Lang is another one as well. I've got pictures of them on my website. I'm looking at Virgil now, and then Thomas Lang is the next one because I've worked with those guys putting on clinics. Nico McBrain, another one, he's a healthy guy. He's still playing with Maiden touring, in their late 60s.
Yeah. I mean, that comes down to, as you mentioned, their next generation. And is there a generation in their 20s and 30s who are sensational drummers, or is there a style change occurring where it's not about being sensational, it's about fitting in with a team, the band, and just being part of the rhythm section? Have you noticed anything there?
I think technically that younger generation of drummers are just phenomenal. Staggering to see levels of even students that come into the shop, and their ability is just mind-blowing.
Yeah.
The platforms that they have, and we talk about it, where they're going to do gigs and the music that they're developing and what music is popular and how they're going to sustain a career, that's another issue.
Yeah.
And that can fuel your passion, or it can negate from that and just go, no, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to go and play footy.
Yeah.
Because I can make more money playing footy than I can playing the drums.
Yeah.
That's the part that for me I ponder quite a bit. It's the need for competition between us and the need for artistic expression. I think artistic expression needs to come up in the percentage that of things that people are committed to. But
Well, we've just talked about Rob's Drum Shed. And let's just move over. It's not your site, but it's Amazon. But you've got your Rob's Foundation's, Rob Bounty Foundation's book on there. Important to know, because yes, you may get people coming to your site because they know you and you're marketing yourself. But then there is the general search that people go to on the big, World Wide Web, and do their Dr. Googles and drumming techniques or drumming books, and that's where you're going to come up there. So you got to be there. How have you found that working, being on like Amazon and whatever?
For me, being once again, I'm at the bottom of the tree as far as that goes.
Yeah.
I don't get a lot of hits through any of that. I sell the bulk of my books direct. Shop. There's a shop in Melbourne, Drum Tech, that stocks it through Frank Corniola, who was one of my teachers back in my days in Melbourne.
What's the percentage, Rob, between selling your book online, now whether it's a delivery of a physical book or getting, I suppose you have an electronic version of it, do you?
Yeah.
And being sold at a drum store or a music store, is it about 50-50?
90-10.
90 physical?
Yeah.
At drum stores, right, where you've got your captivated audience. They're drumming, they're drummers, and that's where it's like going to uni, you've got to buy the uni book, yeah?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I've got people come into the shop. The thing that I've noticed is, because we've advertised, this is written by one of the guys here, Dr. Robert Bounty, blah, blah, blah. It's like to have a guy with a PhD in a music store doesn't happen a lot.
No.
I'm probably one of the very few in the country.
I would suspect.
And so people feel the confidence that, oh, wow, this guy kind of knows what he's talking about. He's done the work. So I sell a lot of books like that, basically by, saying, well, I've written a book. Here it is if you want any help, blah, 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 blah. And I've got students. We teach it. I don't shop, but there's a few teachers that teach at the shop. And people come in and are fascinated that someone's written a book locally. As I say in my thesis, I haven't got any delusions of grandeur, and I don't really want to conquer anything outside of Adelaide or Melbourne at this point in time, because I'm just so consumed with trying to keep the website and the content at that level. My YouTube channel.
It's a hard job. It's a hard job. You need to feed that beast every day.
Yeah. And I do. And I, as well as I practice every day, I teach 3 days a week, and I'm in the shop 4 days a week. And then I try and maintain some sort of career as an active musician as well, songwriter. So I'm 100% committed to all of it, but selling it through the shop is worked good for me. My publisher, Green Hill Publishing, said that they promote it across all of the digital platforms, but I have very little response from all of that.
Yeah.
And I'm buried in the sea of countless tutor books that are out there. As far as if someone in America goes, well, who's Robert Bounty? I've never heard of him. Well, you're not going to, because I'm from Adelaide and had a career in Melbourne and in Australia. So it's hard enough for Australian artists to get exposure overseas, because there's so many American artists or European artists.
Well, Rob, you've got to put it in perspective, don't you? Okay, there's the population, the obvious one, but when you think about as a band in America, you don't need, let's think Elvis Presley never toured outside of America. Hawaii was the only place he went. And you can if you're a band in the States, and even if you're a mediocre band, you can still earn a damn good living and do, 50-date tours or, 150-date tours quite easily, and earn a living. Mightn't be a fantastic living, but you earn a living.
Yeah.
And when you consider that, and then, could you imagine how many drummers come out of that? Because it's just the volume of it. There's got to be a couple in there that, so you're up against all of that. When it's here, well, you do 5 dates, you've done quite well, or 10 dates. Geez, you're doing really well. So I see that, you're up against it. But the thing is, you've actually done it. You've delivered. It's there,
Yeah.
and you're tutoring. So, we've got the Derringers site there too, but then we go to your Facebook page. And so, again, quite people might go, Facebook, but it's still quite hard to feed the beast and keep, feeding that page with relevant articles or, thoughts and whatever. Do you find that?
Yeah, socials. I mean, I've been around a couple of touring drummers over the past 3-4 months, like international touring drummers, and that's constantly what they're doing. Their socials, that's a really big part of what they do to promote themselves. So I get that. It's very time consuming to do. But yeah, I've got the Rob's Drum Shed site up there as well. I've got the Virgin Soldier site. I've also got the Instagram page, just Rob Boundy. And I try to do, I spend time basically trying to get stuff up by Thursday night or Friday night and over the weekend. So
it's a job. I'm telling you, we do it every day. It's a real job, and we because we're concentrating on Laneway Red at the moment. We're way behind schedule. Our TikTok, our Instagram, our Threads, our YouTube community are all suffering because it's all heads down and trying to bums up. So no, I get there's a lot of work. Now the other side of that is from Rob Boundy then becomes, well, we're going to get new music from Rob Boundy, and that being part of your creative talents and the marketing of Rob Boundy. Yes, there's Virgin Soldiers, which you've got a lot of back recordings, which have never been released and we're going to release. And there are new recordings, and you're going to collaborate with people and pursue that also, which gives you another whole dimension to how you apply what you're selling there, and that being drum tuition and whatever, into a whole delivery package, which is a song. Correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've spent a lot of time writing backing tracks for my website. I've spent a lot of time writing original music for my own self-expression, really, and working with a lot of different people outside of the Soldiers as well. So, we've been talking to Rob O'Connell. His current project is called Desert Head, which a copy of that. But, he's from Temper Temper, Safari Set, Brown Paper Bag. They're just a few of his projects. And he's one of the most prolific Australian songwriters that I've had the joy of, working with and being around, because he's never stopped writing for as long as I've known him. I've known him since probably 89.
Yeah.
And I love his music because it's fresh, it's challenging. It can be challenging to listen to. A lot of people don't have a good response to it, but I have a wonderful response to it. I think, as an artist and a singer and a songwriter, he's great. So I'm really excited that we're going to work together on a couple of things.
Oh, can't wait to hear some of that stuff. I mean, when do you think we may hear something in the next month or so?
I'm hoping so. I mean, Rob's really busy. We've got a producer looking at it at the end of next week. So I've got some stems that I've sent to him, and he's listened to the song a few times. So we've got some ideas.
I'm looking forward to that, Rob. I really am. So that will be another dimension again, because we know what you do with Virgin Soldiers. It's a finite band because we know what they are. So to have something completely new is just, again, another dimension again to Rob. So, with all this going on, how do you see yourself, over the next 10 years? Will you be able to keep progressing? Will you have the energy to do it? Will you have the inspiration to do it? Will there be the joy of writing some new music, which you go, that's just fresh. It's just so fresh and it's new, Where do you see yourself going, Rob?
I don't see my enthusiasm for writing new music to ever stop. I don't see an end point there because I'm constantly thinking about it. I love playing music. I love playing the instrument, the drums. I love teaching, and I love row. Yeah, I've got so much more in me that I want to get out. So yeah, that's not going to stop.
I mean, I think I'm the same. Is that I day for day I live for music. The only thing that comes close, it'll always be the families there at the top of the tree, but what comes close to my love for music is motorcycles, and I'm a motorcycle head, and but music is what I pine for every day, and I just look forward to getting up and listening to new music and working on music, and I can't believe it. At the age of 62, it hasn't gotten any less. I'm more excited than ever, and I suppose lucky guy I've been to be able to do this my whole life. It's just been a joy, and it's not waning at all. So it's good to hear that, you can't see anything else. It's about music. It's been about being creative. And obviously with your education background, there's the education side, which again revolves around your love for music. So that's all part of it.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I'm looking at my YouTube site now, Rob's Drum Shed.
Yeah.
I haven't got a lot of subscribers, but that's another thing that I probably need to work on. But you can't
work on everything, Rob. And I just want to put that out to people is that you can't do it all. There's so much involved, and to get those subscribers up, you have to go full ball at it. Well, then you've got everything else that's happening and what you're working on, and so so I get it. It's difficult. That's a whole nother project to get that right up.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of content. There's 73 videos up there.
Yeah,
myself. And, that if you look, I worked out the hours that it takes. It's between 5 and 10 hours just to produce a video. So there's 730 hours there if you want to use that equation roughly. So there's a lot of time and effort goes into all that. I've got different sections in my website. I've got drum lessons and demonstration videos. There's drum solos. There's, my different play-along videos that I play to different backing tracks, ones that I've written or other ones. And there's band stuff outside of that. So, and I keep doing all that sort of content. But as you know, with video and putting clips together, it takes a long time.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think in our podcast details, we have got your YouTube. We don't have your YouTube channel in there. So we'll get that in there. All right. Put that in there.
Yeah.
We seem to have everything else except your YouTube channel.
Yeah. Well, it's just Rob's Drum Shed.
Oh, well, Rob, I think we've done enough for today. It's been Rob, and Rob, and there's a lot of Rob going on, and I think, I just pull it back to where we started. It's the respect for Rob Bounty as a drummer, and, and when you start talking about the physical pounding that let's call it a professional, because you're a professional drummer. That's what you are. You are a professional drummer. And it's, some people might say, well, does he play in a big band? Well, it's not about that. You do everything else is about your drumming and the associated music. So, a lot of work goes into it. I mean, I find it a joy to watch you play. I find you extremely mechanical. It's the timing, the strength in hitting the drum or the cymbal. And I just go, it's like a machine. But that comes from practice. So you might go, oh, I don't know about the mechanical, Vince. I want to be super creative. I don't mean it as mechanical, but the mechanical part is that comes with the timing, the rotation, the strength of the hit, able to, between, I suppose only drummers would understand it, but between your left and right foot. I don't mean double bass drums. I mean being able to work with your left foot on your hi-hat and, your right on your bass drum. That's difficult too. It's a technique, and like anything. And so you watch it and you make it look so easy. But again, it's about the timing too and being in time. And if people watch some of the Virgin Soldiers live footage up, you start to see it there. So yeah, it is a pleasure to watch, mate. So there's no doubt about it.
I appreciate it. But as I said, I've basically gone backwards. I could always play. I've had great bands, great players that I played with, but I keep working on all of that coordination stuff every day. I've got a set of technical exercises that is a 30-minute start to my practice routine that I do 5-6 days a week. And it's all on my website. I go through my book. I play all the lessons in my book. I go through them with my students, and they're all mechanical exercises, and I try and make them as enjoyable.
It is extremely difficult to do that every day when you say, I start with these exercises and whatever. Getting on that drum, on those drums every day and doing what you're doing to stay in shape like that is a feat in itself, and you should be congratulated for that. And that, that a lot of musicians, I know that applies to guitarists and whatever, or piano players, even singers with their voice. And that's the difference.
You don't just wake up one morning and go, wow, look how great I am and I'm successful. That just
absolutely. Well, mate,
anyway.
I think that's enough for today, and we will talk next week. And so have a good weekend, my friend, and we'll chat next week.
Cheers, Vince.
Thanks, Rob. Bye.
Bye.
And there it is, another Laneway Talks.